But really, thank you guys. It's just heartwarming to see a good turnout for the museum, and it's something we're always really excited to do. We do take a break from what I would call the traditional speaker series in December for Wright Brothers, but then we're back in January. We have somebody from the University of Wisconsin coming up to talk about the MIA recovery that they do over in England, where they were bringing back World War II aircraft that crashed, and they're bringing back the remains, and they're doing all this research, and it's really amazing research. It's crossing science and history together, which is pretty cool. So you're not going to want to miss that. They actually did speak here once before. We got a huge snowstorm. I applaud the 7 people that came that night. But we thought maybe we should have them back. But tonight, you guys are really in for a treat. We have Matt Garretton, who is one of the Blue Angels historians. So he actually does a lot of the paper research and history and preservation work. And we have Captain Greg Woolbridge, who is former Blue Angel #1, 3-time commander of the unit, only person to do that. So you're in for a good night. And how many fans of the Blue Angels are here? All right, a lot of people. Awesome. Well, I think with that, let's bring them up and let's go flying with the boss.
You gotta love that, huh? Thank you. How are y'all doing? This is great. Glad to be here. This is terrific.
Good to have you up here,
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming up, and you guys have a seat. We're just going to do some hangar flying here and talk airplanes. So
sounds good.
Yeah, this is actually what I do at home, so this is very fitting. I may have a different beverage up here, but it's all right. So
your family room this big?
It is not. No, I just do it here. Oh. So before we dive into your personal experience leading and flying with the Blues, Matt, let's start with you. You've actually written a book we have here in the gift shop. You've written several books, and you're a historian for the squadron. Tell us a little bit about, well, first off, how did you get into all this? How did you get into aviation?
Oh, well, started out like a lot of you, I'm sure did. Had a parent who was into it. My dad was an Air Force pilot, so it only made sense that I wanted to be a Navy pilot. He flew B-36s, and I was one of 5 kids, and I was the only one who got the aviation bug. Started flying, I think got my first lesson when I was 12 years old. Over the years, I've amassed over 10,000 hours, most of them in warbirds. My first time here at Oshkosh was 1980, when Pete Parrish was the head of Warbirds of America. Had a great time and always loved coming back. But I got out of aviation and got into the wine and spirits business. They don't normally work together.
Sounds like a good
Not at the same time.
Not at the same time.
Always maintain at least 12 feet from the airplane when you're drinking. Oh, so that's smoking. Never mind that.
Yeah. Well, there are times where I've been drinking and I have been smoking. That's another story. But I decided to, after a successful career owning a winery, a distillery, a liquor distributorship, I decided to hang up my hat in that realm and get back to what I really love, and that's aviation and writing. Even though I'm a graduate of the University of Georgia, I can string sentences together. And most of the time, they're spelled correctly. But started writing and started getting back into the things I was passionate about. And these days, I wear a lot of different hats. I'm the executive director for the A7 Corsair II Association, which Boss Woolrich is a member. I am executive director of the River Rats, organization that was started by a bunch of Air Force F-105 and F-4 pilots back in Vietnam, still going strong. I am also the editor-in-chief of the Air Traffic Control Association's 2 publications.
You tell pilots where to go.
I tell you what, my favorite saying as a pilot was always, "Center, am I up here for you, or are you down there for me?" And now a good bit of my salary is to these people I have to be nice to. But I started researching the Blue Angels. I've been a fan forever. First time I saw them was 1979 at NAS Atlanta. A lot of folks on that team and subsequent teams became good friends. And nobody had done a substantive series on the history. You know, there's a lot of books on the Blue Angels out there, but by their definition being one book, they can't tell the whole story. And the pictures all tend to be the same pictures, the stories, the same stories. And I thought the only way you can do justice to this team is to break it down into 10-year segments. And I created a project called Blue Angels Decades.
It's awesome. It is an awesome
thank you.
history. Beautiful.
It's kind of like a family album, and it tells the history with ephemera and all different. We can look at it later, but through that and getting to know a lot of the alums, I was named the print historian for the Blue Angel Association 3 years ago.
Excellent.
Does that answer your question?
That's perfect. So can you tell us, together, we recorded a Green Dot podcast earlier, so it's a good rehearsal. But you guys sort of played off one another. Can you tell us about how the Blue Angels was created and where the name came from, too?
Of course. How many of you know where the name came from?
Three.
All right.
2 or 3 hands.
Well, the team itself came about through Chester Nimitz, who at the time was the chief of naval operations. This was in the spring of 1946. 6 months earlier, we won the war in Japan, largely due to naval aviation. But with the end of hostilities also came the drawdown of resources and budgets for the military. And Nimitz rightly saw that a crackerjack flight demonstration team that represented the U.S. Navy would not only be a good way to recruit and retain members of the service, but as importantly, create headlines and awareness so that the Senate and the House would remember them fondly with budget appropriations. He wanted to make sure that the Navy got more than their fair share, or naval aviation. And so what he did, he sent an order down to Rear Admiral Frank Wagner, who was the chief of pilot training. They were based in Jacksonville at the time, and said, you need to look into the feasibility of getting this done. He in turn reached out to Rear Admiral, Ralph Davison, thank you. Ralph Davison was the head of advanced pilot training over in JAX, and I apologize, Wagner was in Pensacola, and said, boss has given me a job, the job's now yours, see what you can do. He immediately tapped one of his leading flight instructors in advanced training, Butch Voris. Butch was a decorated World War II Hellcat pilot, a really great stick, very squared away. And he said, we've got this mission, let's see what we can do. And remember, this started April 2nd of 46. Within 75 days of Nimitz's original order, the team had flown their first show. They picked the F-6F Hellcat mainly because it was the aircraft that Jacksonville, the training unit, the advanced training units were flying, and because they were relatively cheap, and they didn't want to get the reputation that they were throwing first line, top of the line hardware towards a demonstration team. But as far as the name, NAS Jacksonville, which was the home of the team for the first few years, they held a contest saying, hey, we got to come up with a name for this team. Well, the head of the skipper of the base, he had a son who came up with the name the Blue Lancers. And there were all kinds of crazy names. But Blue Lancers was the front runner simply because the skipper, the base CO, was pushing it and said to Boris, isn't that a great name? It just rolls off the tongue. Well, Butch and his team went up to New York to visit Grumman. And
Is that when they picked up the new airplane?
no, it was
Before that?
before then. And they went to go into Grumman, going to be up in New York, got to go see the big city. So Wick Wickendall.
And you had to be unmarried in those days.
Yes, yeah. Wick Wickendall, who had served with Butch in his World War II squadron, who was also on the team, was thumbing through an issue of the New Yorker. You know, they're trying to figure out what are we going to do when we're in New York. And he came across this nightclub called the Blue Angel. True story.
Perfect.
He said, well, what do you think of the Blue Angel? Makes sense, blue, navy, all of that. And it started to be used informally, and it was finally picked up by the press when they were flying a show in Nebraska, on Omaha. And I gotta imagine that the base CO back at Jax was not too happy, because it was a fait accompli, because he came in and said, mea culpa, I had nothing to do with it, it was the press. But you can kind of read between the lines, right? So that's how the name actually came about. And I made a pilgrimage to that space. It's now a hotel, not too nice hotel, but it should have a plaque there. So.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
But, so that's how it happened.
Cool.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the progression of aircraft that the team flew over the years?
Sure. So, as I said, they started out with the F-6 because they were available. That's what they were training in, flying day to day, and they were cheap. Well, 6 months after the team was stood up, Nimitz finally had the opportunity to see them perform in Corpus Christi. And the shows that they were doing were so dynamic and so different from any other flight demonstration team at that time, or any air show performer at that time. And he was just blown away. And he said, by golly, if we're going to have us perform in front of audiences all over the country, we got to be in our Sunday finest. So 6 months after starting with the Hellcat, they went to the F-8F Bearcat. They flew that till 1953, 53. From there, they went to the jet age, and they flew two variants of the straight wing, the F-9F Panther, the Dash 2 and the Dash 5. They flew that through from 1949 through to, I'm getting my dates mixed up. See? It's not the spelling, it's the math.
That's a Georgia thing right there.
Yeah. So they went from the straight wing Panther to the swept wing, and they flew that from 55 to 57, and that was the F-9F Cougar, F-9F-8. From there, they decided they wanted something with an afterburner, went back to Grumman, and they picked the F-11 Tiger. And they flew that from 57 through 68. And then they went to the Phantom years, the F-4J Phantom from 69 to 74. And then the A4F Skyhawk 2 from 74 to 86. And they've been flying variants of the Legacy Hornet since 86, and transitioned to the Super Hornet in 2020.
All right, let's test the audience here a little bit. How many people saw them perform in the Hornets? A lot of people, right?
Legacy Hornet. Yeah.
All right. Now, how many people saw them in the F4 Phantoms?
Lucky.
All right. How about the A4 Skyhawks? Anybody see them in the A4s? All right. We're going to try a little bit further back. How about, let's go back, what is it, one airplane to the, would it be the
F-11?
Cougar? Or the F-11. Anybody see the F-11? Rick, you're not hiding up there. I can see. Rick's raised his hand on every one so far. Anybody go back to the Cougars? All right. That's impressive. That's a pretty good span here we cover. So.
Yeah, when I've talked to pilots who were in that time frame, they say the F-11 was certainly a pilot's plane and a fun thing to fly, much like the A4. And when you talk to a lot of folks who have not only time on the team, but time in those jets, they always say the F-11 and the A4 really nimble, something you strapped on, tiny, responsive, great plane, and great show plane.
They flew some pretty aircraft, that's for sure. Yeah. So, boss, let's start grilling you here a little bit.
All right, Chris, I'm ready.
So, how did you find your way into aviation? What was your beginning?
I was going to be drafted. And I had a college degree, and I had already started a family. So I said, I got to do something. With a degree, I was happy to serve, glad to go do it, but I wanted to have a skill that I could carry on after the service. So I thought, I'll go fly, and I went to this screening board of Marine fighter pilots, F4 pilots in Olathe, Kansas, and sitting around a table. So we'd march in, and they'd say, well, what do you want to fly? I said, I want to fly the biggest, ugliest, most engined thing you have. And these fighter pilots are going, what? And I said, yeah, when I get out of the Navy, I want to fly for the airline so I can help do something for my family. And they said, okay, we need some fodder over there. Okay, you're good. And they let me in, and then I got in, and I was in AOCS in Pensacola, marching around on the grinder down there, if you know what I mean by that, the seawall, where it was a beautiful place, but the humidity. And then trying to keep from looking up as the F4s, these blue F4 jets are flying overhead, marching, peeking out, so the drill instructor doesn't see me. But, that changed my mind about the big multi-engine uglies, and that kind of helped me set my course.
Well, how did you progress from there? What did you train in, and then what did you get assigned?
Yeah, I went through the jet training command, the jet pipeline. Landed the A4 on the Lexington back in the day, right? And got qualified, got my wings, and they had trained too many pilots. And so about 70 of us got winged. About 50 of us went back to either to the training command or became a BOQ officer, a rec officer, not even flying. I went back to the training command, so I was going to be flying. But I went back and I was an instructor in primary flight training in the T-34B, a little prop plane, but it was a blast. Teaching people how to fly was just so rewarding. Getting 100 hours a month at least, sometimes 120, and just and becoming a better aviator myself. When you teach something, you learn more about what's going on. You have to, and so that was the first thing I did, which was very unusual. I cite that because that's not a normal path. People say, oh, you got to command the blues 3 times. You must have had all these cool things you got to do. No, I failed along the way. I failed at the aircraft carrier. I'll show you a video of flying on the aircraft carrier, on and off the aircraft carrier, and I'll show you why. It can be challenging, especially at night. So my first time out, I failed, but I had a second chance. So I had a lot of second chances, and that was crucial. And I've taken that on board as a leader to make sure that I look at that with people, second chances. All right, I'm digressing. I told you I go on and on. But I finally, after the T-34 VT1 in Softley Field, I got A7s. So I got an A7 squadron, Fleet Squadron VA-25. Then I went to shore duty flying the A4 in an adversary role. The Air Force folks will know it as aggressor role, teaching American and Allied Air Forces how to beat the bad guys, right? We would fly the bad guy tactics. Then I went back to another A7 squadron, VA-22, and then I went from there, oh, no, I didn't go right to, I went from the aggressor, the adversary squadron, over to the Philippines in VC5, and they had A4, old A4s in that squadron that they used to tow targets and simulate missile runs, but they wanted to turn that squadron into an adversary squadron. So I got to, because I'd had that experience at Lemoore, I got a chance to start up that program. So, and what everybody said, you can do it if you want, but it's a dead end. I said, I just want to fly. I just love flying. I want to have some fun. So I went over there and lived there for 2.5 years, got that program started, and then went back to and an A7 skipper on the way through, Jerry Palmer, he saw me and he said, I want you back in Lemoore as a department head. So I went back to another A7 squadron, BA-22, and then to staff duty at Latwing Pack, but I still flew, and from there I got selected to command, and I commanded the dam busters on the Midway, and it wasn't anchored at San Diego. It was a museum. It was a real ship. But BFA 195, and that was terrific. And from there I got selected to lead the Blues, led them, went off to, for 2 years, which is a normal tour. Everybody gets 2 years. So we rotate 50% of the pilots and officers, and about 33% of the troops rotate every year. So that makes you rely on a strong culture and a tradition of how you do things. Anyway, 2 years of that, I got screened for Major Command to run Rota, the Navy base in Spain. Went to Spanish school. While I'm in Spanish school, they say, hey, can you come back? The flight leader's having some problems. I went back, led the team again, finished that. Then that Rota job had gone away, so they said, well, we'll send you to NS Lemoore, which I truly enjoyed as well, commanding the base there. I used my Spanish a little bit there. That was good. Language school paid off. And right as I was getting ready to retire, they asked me to come back to the team again. They said, Woldridge, we're going to give you one more time to get this right. So I went back and we had a blast, and that's my story.
That's fantastic. That's an awesome
And
way.
I want to chime in about 5 days late, but with heartfelt thanks to the veterans. Happy Veterans Day in arrears. Thank you. Thank you. And if I could talk for just a minute about the Blue Angels, the diversity on the team, people from all walks of life that made that team so strong and so rich and important. It was so cool. The teamwork, and it was all built about respect. And I might have a slide about respect up there, but respecting what each other did. This year was the 50th anniversary of women in naval aviation. And we've had women fighter pilots now for 25 years, 30 years in combat. And they are terrific. And the Blues got to celebrate this year, first time ever, with a lady in the formation. Yeah, Amanda Lee, the first woman Blue Angel flying in the formation. So she finished as a left wingman, and this coming year she'll be in the slot. She's terrific. So I just wanted to feed that in, but thank you.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. What a
Her call sign is Stalin. No mess with Stalin.
Can you tell us about, when you decided to apply to the Blues and how that acceptance process went?
Yeah, sitting in the ready room, ready room chair, kick back, skipper of the squadron, reading naval messages, which were the precursor to emails. We didn't have emails. So I was reading the message board, and one came out and said, hey, we need a new leader of the Blue Angels. And, the little bubble formed. Would I love to do that, They'll never pick me. There's no way. So I said, I just flipped through it. And the guys came in, hey, skipper, we hear they're looking for a new boss of the Blues. I said, yeah, forget about it. And they said, look, skipper, you'd be great. And besides, you'd get us front row seats at the air shows. And I figured right then, if you presented an opportunity and you don't try it, you'll never know. You'll never, ever know. And I said, I got to know, I got to know. And I was a finalist, so 6 of us went back to Corpus Christi. I from Japan, and I was so looking forward to some good Mexican food. And that became even more the highlight when I saw the competition. I was competing for the lead of the Blue Angels with the skipper of Top Gun, the Top Gun commander, And I thought, and then there was a guy, long flowing blonde hair, what was his name? On the East Coast flying the F-14 demos. Snort, yeah. Dale Snodgrass, Snort. I said, those guys are just, they're picture perfect, you know. And I said, no, never pick me. I was real relaxed. So then I got relaxed and real honest. You know, they'd ask me something, yeah, okay, well, this is what I would do. Yeah. And I was surprised. I was blown away when they said, you're the guy.
How did you find out? How did you find out you were accepted?
They had us all around, and it was a full day, a day and a half, I think. I think we went into another day. They did interviews, and you know, they put you in the hot seat for an hour or so with all these ex-blues and admirals and folks bearing down on you. And at the end of the interview process, everybody was in there, and they said, all right, Wooldridge, you're the one. And that was, you know, I was amazed. I was shocked. Shock and awe.
So in the process, what comes next? How do you start training up for this?
Yeah, that was daunting. I mean, it's nice because you get about a 6 or 8 week onboarding, right, where you go there and you don't really have a job. It was called the mini boss, so it was mini. Okay, I can handle that. But you watch how things happen. You look at the culture. You see the procedures. You look at what makes them tick. You go, you know, I went down, we call it downstairs into the hangar, and watch how the men and women work down there. And then my first ride with the Blue Angels was in the back. They have some two-seaters. The team has two-seaters, and they took me in the back seat of one of the solo pilots. The solo pilots are the ones that rip around high energy, high G, you know, look like they're going to hit each other. First third of the show, or 2/3 of the show, the diamond flies in front of the crowd, then the solos come. So we're going to put you in the back seat of the solo, one of the solo guys, and see what you think. Yeah, I'm ready to go, Skipper. I'm ready to go, boss. Yeah, it's gonna get out in the airplane. They did a dirty roll on takeoff, left the gear down. Almost looks like it's gonna hit the ground, full afterburner. Ah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm loving this. The guy in the front seat says, hey, Minnie, I got to do a high performance turn, high G turn. Are you ready for this? Oh yeah, you know, I was a fighter pilot. Yeah. Get out there and watch. So he puts it in a turn, and you all know about G's, right? We're all sitting here at 1 G. If we were at 2 G's, we'd be twice our body weight. 3 times, 4 times. So we're getting this turn, and to hold altitude, you have to increase the G forces, right? So I'm watching the G meter, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, this is feeling good. Yeah, back in the saddle again. 5, 6 G's, 6.5 G's. I blacked out. And so the guy in the front seat, he rolls the airplane out. He says, how's it going back there, Minnie? I said, yeah, I'm going okay. He said, oh, good, because we're going to do that again here in just a minute. Are you ready for that? I said, yeah, I guess I got to. No, I didn't say that, but I kind of, and you know, same thing, 4, 5, 6, 6.5. I got more sleep on the flight than I did awake time. The revelation of that was, this isn't going to be easy. You know, and looking back on that, having something else, one of the endeavors we had going last year and the year before was making a movie, and I was with the team the whole time for a long time. And we filmed a sequence for this upcoming movie of what they do now. And I realized that we didn't have a centrifuge back then, and that was Boss's way of showing me, humble yourself, fella, because this isn't an easy gig. And so, but now what we do, because in the fleet you fly with G suits. You know, the things that tighten up around your legs as the G increase, they're bladders that inflate through a hose that comes from the console. The plane senses how many G's are on, and it puts more and more air into these chaps, if you will, kind of like chaps, but only all around your leg and then through your abdomen. The Blues don't fly with those, and we had them in the fleet. So that was a big change. So now when pilots are selected, they go to the KBR centrifuge in San Antonio, and they fly the first whip around with G suits up to 7 G's and then down to 5 and hold that for a while. And they do that okay. And the next day, okay, now we're going to do this. So in our movie, we show what happens. And the new guys, 2 of the 3 new people, including Amanda, and the new boss, passed out. And then they had to do it again. And I wasn't there for that, but I don't know how many times they had to do it, but they have to do it till they don't pass out. So, but it's interesting. So that was an early test. And then we go to, so I took the team, we fly around Pensacola, the home base there. The change over the end of season occurs in the second week in November. So we just hang around Pensacola. It takes the holidays, but we do a little flying, a little, 6-8 feet apart type thing, so the new people can get a feel for it. And then on the 1st of January, we pack up lock, stock, and barrel, but no wives, no kids, no cars, no distractions, and we go to El Centro, California, in the Imperial Valley, in the desert, for the next 10 weeks. We fly 6 days a week, twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, to really ingrain what this is all about, to learn it. It's a stair step, it's a gradual process. You get closer and closer until you get to show quality, which is about 3 feet apart. And then you take the show on the road. We get certified by Synopter, the Chief of Naval Air Training, comes out, certifies us, yeah, you guys look good. It's kind of a token thing, I think. I mean, I don't know what he's going to say. Oh, you guys are terrible. You got to spend another month here or something. That wouldn't work. But anyway, it was great. But learning it and overcoming fear, elevating your beliefs and what you could do as an individual and as a team. You elevated your beliefs and how you did that, and how we did that, and built trust. The trust was so crucial. We became, the way the Blue Angels debrief, they become so vulnerable and open and transparent, and they have total responsibility. They hold themselves accountable for what they've done that day. And it starts with the boss saying, these were my mistakes today. The boss leads off the debrief with total transparency. And then everybody around the room goes, it's okay to say I screwed up. How about that? What a change in the world, And it built his trust, because we know there's no holdbacks. Nobody's hiding anything from anybody, because fear is dissolved. Fear is not there. And I take this to corporations and I tell them, look, it's so crucial to elevating your performance. So we would do that day in, day out. Continuous improvement. It wasn't like trying to get to a goal. It was how you continually improve to get to that goal. Completion versus continuous, but continuous improvement versus completion. Anyway.
I'll tell you, one of the nicest things that I got to do, been very fortunate to sit in on a number of team briefs and debriefs. And it's almost a Zen-like. There's some YouTube out there that shows some of what it's like, but it was when I first went into the first debrief, and everybody, not just the pilots, the doc, Mo, the PAO.
Officer Mo, was his call sign, Mo. He represented 130 people. So he had his meeting, and then he would bring it to the C-suite, if you will, to the executives, and we would debrief ourselves. But you're right. And the Mo would tell us, say, okay, we forgot to, we didn't pull one of the chocks or something. That created an issue. Or something like, it's a hypothetical, but something like that, right? But he was able to represent, yes, it's amazing.
Oh, and as we were talking earlier, you said that as you're building trust, and that trust builds through the season, that there are times that by the end of the season, you guys are flying even closer.
Yeah. We would move from, by elevating our beliefs and getting a consensus on what we could do as a team, we moved from 3 feet in most every maneuver down to, a lot of the maneuvers, down to 18 inches. And I'm going to show you a clip in a second. 18 inches, if you put your arms up in the air, wiggle your fingers, the end of your fingertips, the top of your head is 18 inches. And that's the 22-ton jet going 400 miles an hour. Yeah. And then I'm going to show you where they do it now. It's even closer in one of these clips. What have I got up here next? Oh, yeah, the 3 feet apart. Yeah, right? And we've all seen that. So, yeah, so we continue to throw it. So if, I'm going to,
We're okay. We're good. We have them. They can't go.
I'm burning it up. So we get closer and closer, but the one time that we swapped paint, we had a little fender bender, was the second to last show site of the year when we thought we were pretty darn good. And we did this loop break cross where I take all 6 airplanes up into a loop come down the back side, and I call smoke on, ready, brake, on the B and brake, 6 airplanes break apart, go out in 6 different directions, 3 miles, come back in, and we try to come back to the center point and cross it at the same time. I'm telling them where I am so that they can make corrections, and that's another leadership thing. But in the breakout, the far right-hand guy, his missile launcher rail, if you want to, let's see if this thing will work. Oh, yeah, cool. Hey, that's cool. So this guy's actually out here. There were 6 of us, so this is not total representative, but his missile launcher rail hit and knocked about half of that tail off of the guy in front of him. It wasn't me, but it was, and the missile rail fell off. Landed the airplanes, debriefed it the way we always debriefed it, and found out that we'd been doing something all season, that we'd been so lucky that we hadn't hit each other. Anyway, yes, we get better, but that doesn't mean you can get complacent or not consider what can happen.
Well, and you mentioned at one point, we were talking about you guys fly so close that if turbulence hits you, it's not really an issue because it almost treats you guys as one big airplane.
Yeah, and the crucial thing, though, is that as the lead, when you get bumped around, you feel this stuff that you don't react to it. So, you know, if I'm leading and these guys are that close to me, you can see up there, and the texture in the air, I like to call it texture. You know, hey, we're gonna have a little texture today, and it isn't gonna be silk; it's gonna be burlap. You know, so I said, hold what you got, don't flinch, because I'm not going to flinch. If we get bumped up, I'm not held to any altitude restriction. You know, if I get bumped up 3 or 4 feet, I'm just going to let that thermal, whatever, bump me up, and we'll all bump up the same amount, and then back down. In Chicago, you're flying, and you got the skyscrapers right in there above us, and we're flying along, and because the relative wind is disturbed by those buildings, we're flying along like this, then the wind goes away like this, and the wind comes back, and as long as the lead doesn't flinch and doesn't move, because we're so close, there's no conflict.
That's incredible. So one thing I want to mention, do you have a movie you're ready to show?
Let's see what I got here. All right, let's see what's next. Oh yeah, watch this. This is when we get real close. How many airplanes in that formation? So you got the guy down below and those 2 missile launchers of the wingmen, and there's the boss in front there. So right there, that's about 12 inches right there. Holy mackerel. I saw that for the first time. I said, you guys are flying way too close. You got to knock it off, move it out. I said, how in the heck can you do that? And they said, we trust you, boss. Whew. The mantle of that responsibility was that, Matt, I better do something right. I said, I trust you guys too that you won't hit me. Come on. So it was, it was pretty cool. Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
So we come from doing this. Everybody has to have done this to come to the blues. And then after we've done it, after we do the blues, we go back out and do this again. But this is kind of fun. It takes you, the visibility comes down. Daytime's real pretty and it's not so bad. And then we'll watch the darkness come in, the horizon starts going away, and it goes totally black. And you'll see it through the HUD. And on the left side of the HUD is the airspeed, 132. On the right side is the altitude, 220. So it's still a nice horizon. This is not, oh. But this is what naval aviation is all about. And this is what we had to be good at before we came and flew with the blues. But flying with the blues was even a step higher. I love this at the end. Oh yeah, buddy. Oh yeah, it's nice and daylight. I love that. Yeah, it was great. At nighttime, you come back and you run to your stateroom and change your underwear. I mean, Oh, so much different. Great people. I mean, all kinds of jobs. Oh, okay. I was going to talk about Russia.
Go. Yeah, let's talk about Russia. That'd be fantastic.
So in 1992, we became the first team ever to go fly an air show over Moscow in the military-to-military exchange program. And since then, the last team to do it. And I know things aren't looking real pretty right now, but just the interaction, the dynamics of that was getting to go there, fly with the Russian Knights, their demo team, and actually because they had some two-seaters and we had two-seaters, we got to ride in each other's airplanes. So for an American fighter pilot to fly in a Russian fighter in the flanker. I'll show you a little clip here. You'll see John Foley, Gucci, one of my wingmen. He's talking to his Russian counterpart. The interpreter's back here. You'll see it happen twice. And they're just going, you know, you fly, I fly, me fly, you fly. You know, like we're trying to figure out who's got dual flight controls. We're trying to figure out who's going to fly the airplane. And the first shot of that, you'll see the interpreter going like this. And the second shot, you'll go see him go. It's pretty funny. But that was the best. That was so cool. Here we go. Let's take a look.
Our pilot was the team leader of the Russian team, and he flew me. So we got to see the performance of each other's airplanes. And of course, as an aviator, there's always that competitiveness, you know, and you wonder, what this guy's going to be like, you know, and what am I going to show him?
His name was Vladimir, by the way.
We had to show each other a little bit of stuff. It was basically, you fly, I fly, and it worked out just fine.
There we go again. It was terrific. I mean, and being with those guys, they were just like us. They loved flying. They didn't know what they're going to do with their families, you know, how are you going to feed them, all that stuff. But one thing I found was the Flanker was the most powerful airplane I've ever flown in. I think the new F-15s are probably just as powerful, but the Flanker was amazing and not as nimble as my Hornet. And Vladimir took me, let me fly the airplane from the back, and really the aerodynamics were terrific. And then I put him in the back seat of my airplane. I said, what am I going to show Vladimir? And I remember my first flight with the Blue Angels. I was, Vladimir. Vladimir, I'm going to put in a high G turn. Da, da, da. Okay. 5, 6 Gs. How's it going, Vladimir? Da, da, da. I said, well, this guy's pretty tough. 6.5, 7.5 Gs. How's it going, Vladimir? Silence. I got him. Then I rolled the aircraft out, took the G-forces off. Said, how's it going back there, Vladimir? Silence. I've killed the guy. Pretty soon, da, da, da. It was a great trip. I mean, but for y'all that love this artifacts and the museum and aviation, you'll appreciate this. That cockpit, the avionics in it, was about 25 years behind us, in my estimation. So I knew that if we ever got into it, that's me, I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
No, this is great. Can you talk a little bit about, as we're looking at pictures of some of the maintainers, how close is the relationship between the flight crews and the maintainers, and can you speak about them?
Extremely close. You know, we get to borrow their airplanes for about 45 minutes, go out and fly with total trust. I never pre-flighted an airplane. Huh? Anybody ever heard of that? A pilot not pre-flighting an airplane? Because I had so much trust in my crew chief that they would get it right. I never worried about that. And trust went up and down the chain of command. They trusted us, we trusted them. And in addition to that, that green word up there was primary. We said glad to be here a lot. That was a motto. That was that sense of gratitude. That was a motto of the team. Glad to be here a lot, but what strengthened and solidified the trust and the teamwork was respect. No matter what anybody did, they swept the floors, filed the files, took the videos, no matter what they did, changed tires, fueled the airplane, what they did, it was 100% respect. And what that created was a sense of, I'm valued here, right? No matter what you do, I am valued here. And it's not about me, it's about this purpose larger than self, the purpose of the Blue Angels being the best in the world, right? So I'm going to do my darndest. I don't care if the light shines on me or not, but it will if you do your darndest. And you have respect, and because you have respect and because you sense that you are part of that team, now you have ownership. That demonstration today, that piece of that was mine, because I did my absolute best. And so the strength of the team was just outstanding.
That's fantastic. What a great motto.
Yeah.
As we're talking about the maintainers and I guess not the jets themselves, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the support plane.
Oh, the Fat Albert.
Got to talk about Fat Albert.
Fat Albert! The C-130, it was terrific. I'm not sure when it came on.
70.
In the 1970?
1970.
Yeah, we had the Super Connie. That was beautiful, but like you said, Chris, how do you load a Super Connie, that narrow fuselage with all the stuff we needed to put in it? But it was pretty to fly. So the team has a dedicated logistics airplane with it all the time. That was terrific. Never had to go outside the command and say, hey, can you bring us an engine from Jacksonville this weekend because we just blew an engine and we need to change it tonight, put it in the airplane and have it in this formation again tomorrow, because we had Fat Albert. And that C-130 Marine crewed, and by the way, there's always a Marine in the formation of the Blue Angels in the 6-plane formation. Maybe not this coming year, and we got to fix that. But usually the Marine fighter pilot, the Marine in the formation was the right side, so it was the boss's right-hand man, because that's what the Marines are to the Navy. I mean, if there's any Marines here, they'll probably say, no, we're better. We're the tough service, But the great integration of those two, and with the Fat Albert, it just made things really hum. To have our 30 to 40 that we would take on the road of the maintenance folks, and all the equipment, all the tools in that C-130.
So we're going to start talking about the documentary here soon, but I needed to cue you up on the story about the Cheesehead.
Cheesehead. Good Wisconsin story. So as we came back from every flight, or every weekend, like maybe we're in Chattanooga or something, and we would debrief on Tuesday. We take Monday off, so we'd fly Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And by the way, Tuesday and Wednesday were practices there in Pensacola, so 6 days a week. But on Tuesday morning, we'd come back and say, well, how did it go? The same debriefing thing where I would say what I thought I didn't do quite well enough. When you say that, though, you make the guarantee, I'll fix that. That's that accountability part of it. I'll fix it. So to be vulnerable is okay. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. So I'll fix it. And we'd go around the room, and then after everybody's had their say and made their promises they're going to fix what they did wrong, all right, any nominations for the Cheesehead? Yeah, Thumper wrecked his rent-a-car. I said, okay, that's it right there. And you know what the Cheesehead is, right? It's like a hat.
The cheddar triangle.
Oh yeah, it's a thing here. Yeah,
of a big piece.
You've all got
Oh, you know about cheese. That's right.
one. The doctor issues one when they're born. Wisconsin natives, you get one when you're born.
Yeah,
right?
you get a Cheesehead. So the guy that screwed up would wear the Cheesehead for the rest of the meeting. It's a big old thing. That was so cool. I got another Wisconsinite, so to speak, I want to show you, that talks about exactly the ethos of the Blues. Let's see here. Who's this guy? Huh? We know him, right? But look at what he said. And this is what we did on the Blue Angels. There is no perfection except one. Take a drink. Sorry. I am so joyful. Anyway, we went out every day and tried to do it perfectly. Try to be perfect, right? No, nothing is perfect. You never get to perfection. You have a nice maneuver, here and there, and you like that, but you never have a perfect demonstration. But you go out there, like Vince said to the team, all right, men, we're going to go out there. We're going to seek perfection. We'll never get to perfection, but along the way we'll find excellence. And that was the excellence that was a hallmark of the Blue Angels, how we did it through the team. And I mean, it was fantastic.
That's beautiful. You also just won over this entire crowd.
Yeah. With cheeseheads and Packers.
Well,
right?
that's it. That's it. You could just drop the mic and walk off stage, and everybody will be like, "Man, that was great." So along the way here recently, you have started working on a documentary.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the documentary? And you guys are in for a special treat because I believe we have a little snippet of it. So, but tell us about what you're working on.
So in 1992, when we took the team to Russia, before we went, I said, we've got to chronicle this. And we got Rob Stone, a young child actor who had started his own production company. And we were trying to get somebody to film this event. And Rob came. He did it on a shoestring with 2 or 3 other guys, and they followed us through Europe, all the Sweden, Finland, England, Spain, Italy, Bulgaria, Romania, Russia, all these show sites, and they filmed it. You saw some of the clips up there of my very younger brother. Most of those were from that documentary, which won a Cable Ace Award, Blue Angels Around the World Speed of Sound. It's beautifully done. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I get the idea that we're coming up on the 75th anniversary in 2021 of the Blue Angels, and I call Rob, let's do another documentary about the 75th. And so we started planning it out, and we'll say, okay, Rob, I want your Vienna Productions, your company, to do it. Small company. So we're going to do it on shoestring. So we go to Boeing and USAA and several other typical supporters of the military, Southwest Airlines, and we start saying, please, this is what we want to do. Give us some money. And we were up to about $500K, and I was getting close to where we wanted to do to make the production. And then the coronavirus hit, and all these companies put their wallets back, put duct tape around their wallets and put them back in their pocket, because nobody knew what was going to happen. So we went cold. And then I got a chance to interact with Glenn Powell, who was Hangman in Top Gun Maverick, through an interaction I had with Kevin LaRosa in Tri-Cities in Washington State, where they were filming Devotion. So Kevin had already done all the aerials for Top Gun Maverick, and now he was doing Devotion, and I was giving him a keynote about safety, talking about safety ideas. And he said, what are you doing now? I said, I want to make a movie, but the virus is holding us all back. He said, hey, I know a guy, Glenn Powell, who had a Blue Angel. Growing up, Glenn Powell played Hangman. He was kind of the smart mouth guy in Top Gun Maverick. He had on his wall in his bedroom, had a Blue Angel poster. He said, I want to hook you up with him. He hooked me up with him. Glenn Powell said, I love your idea. Introduced me to a bunch of folks in Hollywood, and we did some virtual, and finally we found a couple that say, really love the idea, really want to do it, but can't pay for it. And I said, okay, well, thanks anyway. Then we found Bad Robot, who is run by Hannah Minghella. She's the chief of film, and her dad was a great director in Hollywood. Hannah Minghella. And that company, Bad Robot, is owned by who? J.J. Abrams. And if you know much about Hollywood, he's like the penultimate producer and director, well, not director, but producer. He said, we want to do this. And then we still had to find funding, and we found IMAX. John Turner, who I have a call with tonight, said, we want to make a feature-length documentary IMAX to put in our 1,800 theaters worldwide. So he said, we're going to fund this. We're going to make it happen. A full-length, feature-length, just like Top Gun Maverick, only real, no fiction, right? All real stuff. And so we went into production. We finished earlier this year. We had hoped to get this movie out this year, and then this summer, then it slid into spring, or not into spring, but into Christmas time. I hoped we could do it in December. Now it's going to slide out till probably Memorial Day of next year. Our streaming service, after it plays in theaters, is Amazon, so we're pretty happy with that. But they've had a say in how we make the movie, and get a little complicated, but what I wanted to do was give you the opportunity to see the teaser we made for the Toronto International Film Festival, the largest film festival in the world. We made that over a year ago. John Turner took it there to sell it to all the IMAX theaters to sell this movie, right? And it just brings out some of the facets that we talk about with the Blue Angels, especially the trust, and of course the high performance stuff. It's only 2 minutes long. It has Glenn Powell in it, but he's not in the documentary. It's one of the producers. I'm an executive producer, but he's one of the producers of the film. What I would ask when I show this is, no iPhones, no cameras. You guys got to turn off the recorders back there, because John Turner said this is strictly a teaser for internal use only, but I like to show it to folks just to get you fired up. And we've been talking a little bit about AirVenture in the end of July. Maybe trying your big screen out there, trying to show this there. That'd be fun.
We told Hal about this, and I could see drool coming outside. No, this will be really cool. That looks amazing.
Some of that filming in there was so Kevin LaRosa had a French helicopter he rented in Atlanta and flew it down to Pensacola, and we're doing the filming. We filmed all over the country, and we went to Hawaii. We chased the team out there, watched them all over the place. But he had his helicopter, a French helicopter, I don't remember what it was, but it had a great big ball turret on the front, right? So Kevin was in the right seat, the commander's seat in the helicopter. In the left seat was a former Blue Angel who had flown 3 different positions on the team. And in the back seat was Michael Fitzmaurice, who was the cameraman running this camera, right? So you saw them in the demonstration. Scared me, and I'm fearless. I said, this isn't going to work. They said, and they figured it out, and they didn't have one hiccup with it. Well, almost all the filming was done with what's called a Sony Venice camera, high quality, that you can do this, full wall stuff with the IMAX. But this 2 days, we brought an operator and a camera out from LA. It was called the Phantom camera, and he was filming at 100,000 frames a second. And you fill a data card in 10 seconds, but from that 10 seconds, you get 6 minutes of video. And so that's the kind of stuff that we caught level with the airplanes, sometimes looking down on them, that has never happened before, right, from that aspect and that kind of quality of film. So it's going to be terrific. It's going to be great for aviation, great for Navy recruiting. They're excited. Just like the original Top Gun when they had their recruiters hanging out outside the theater, right? But this is going to be better.
Oh, it looks beautiful. Absolutely. Well, as we're starting to fight the clock, I do want to give you guys a couple seconds here, at least a few questions. And then again, like I said, make sure you come up to the gift shop. We have a table set up. We'll do our receiving line up there like we usually do here. But we do have some items up there if anybody's looking. Matt, you have your book up there. People could pick up your book, and I'm sure Matt will scribble in it. And if your writing is anything like mine, so
Just don't ask me to do any math on it.
yeah, no math. But does anybody have a question? Let's take a couple questions here before we rotate over. Anybody? Right there, Dave.
To my knowledge, Blue Angels are the only military aircraft in the U.S. that doesn't carry stars and bars. Why is that?
I never thought about that. I mean, we're about as dang patriotic as you can get, and it says U.S. Navy on there, so I think it's just to make the blue stand out with the gold trim. There's no hidden thought there, I don't think.
Yeah, well, the team had stars and bars on it up through the Cougar. And Bob Rasmussen, I don't know if you guys know that name, he was on the team in the Tiger years. He was also the director of the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola for a long time.
And a great artist.
Great artist, yeah.
If you go in the Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola and you see these guys in bronze from the different eras with the different kind of helmets, and Bob Rasmussen made that. Anyway, he's legendary and a former Blue Angel.
And he was the one who designed the Tiger paint scheme, and elements of that have progressed through and evolved in the current aircraft. So,
great question.
Wow. One question that we talked about earlier was, if the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels, who was older, and then we figured out that the Blue Angels were We're older than
Blue Angels are older. Blue Angels are older than the Air Force. Blue Angels were formed in 1946, and there was not a U.S. Air Force until 1947. I know it was the Army Air Corps, but you know, they're just a junior.
Well, they get their due at home base.
Once a year we would.
Well, I mean the washroom, the head downstairs.
Yeah, that's because we got together once a year, and flew on the same day. 1 year in Pensacola, where our base is, the next year in Las Vegas, where their base is. So you can see who's more humble. Pensacola, Las Vegas. Glitter. Yeah, I love those guys. That was the most demanding day of the year because we wanted to do our absolute best. But Matt was talking about.
One of my first visits to the Blue Space, I had to make a head call, and we're on the second deck where all the officers are. We're downstairs, and I go into the men's bathroom, and let's just say it is a tribute to the Thunderbirds.
I didn't know that stickers would stick in the urinals like that.
Oh, there's something that was developed by DARPA or something. I would have loved to have been there the first time a Thunderbird pilot came in to use the head and looked around.
But so Michael Fitzmaurice a week ago texted me with all these Blue Angel things. He was in Las Vegas. Netflix is going to do a doc about the T-Birds. And he said, "You recognize this?" I said, "Yeah, it's a lot of Blue Angel stuff." And I said, "I know where you are. You're in the Thunderbirds bathroom, aren't you?" So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
There are a couple questions around.
question right there.
From your cockpit, what would you say is the most difficult maneuver?
For me, as the lead, I don't know. Well, I just had to do stuff real smoothly, so that the wingman could hang on and be predictable. My cadence had to be precise. And so the responsibility for that was tough. Was hard. So can you see these two airplanes right here? When I got ready to turn left, I'd go coming left, okay, and on a K and K, my right wingman would start turning into me, right? So if I didn't start turning exactly on the K and K, we'd have a little paint swap. So he would start. That's how we looked welded together. So to do that every minute of every demonstration, every second, to be that close to the cadence and have that consistency, so you maintain that trust. That was hard. That was hard emotionally and physically and mentally. But the maneuvers got to be. There were some maneuvers that are harder than others, but after 4 years or more doing that, I didn't get complacent, but it felt pretty good. So I can't really identify one. I can tell you some that were easier. The Diamond Dirty Loop, the landing gear down, the only team in the world that does a loop with all 4 airplanes with the landing gear down, it looked hard. It was so easy because we're slow, controllable. The bottom I could control, right, because we had strict rules on the bottom altitudes. And that's something else in addition to getting closer as the year went on. We would take our bottoms closer to the ground, meaning our bottom level, right, of flight, because we got comfortable with where that was going to be and how safe that would be.
I've always seen my favorite maneuver to watch, and one I suspect is pretty difficult to do with an element of perfection, is the line abreast loop.
Line abreast loop.
Line
abreast loop was when we had 5 airplanes. Yeah, it's me and the right wingman, the left wingman, and now they're not looking through me at an angle. They're looking across their shoulder and trying to keep this line up and the distance apart, but there's 5 of us, me in the middle, 2 on the guys. For them, extremely hard. For me, to make sure my wings never got out of pure levelness, all the way up over the top, leaning all the way back, watching the ground come up and staying wings level perfectly. Nobody ever does anything perfectly, but as close as I could get it. That was a challenge. And I'll throw a little reality check on you. They couldn't see the ground. Do you remember from the 80s, the Thunderbirds were practicing that maneuver in F-16s, or maybe F-5s. F-5s. They had reversal in the controls sometimes. The boss is leading that team, and he has some sort of malfunction, and all of them hit the ground. I mean, that was a tragedy. But that's, again, that's because these guys are looking straight at the, straight across. They don't know where the ground is. Normally, when the Diamond and the Delta are together flying, the slot pilot is my backup. I had a couple times when they said, the slot pilot would say, "A little more pull, boss," because he thought we were getting low. And I'd say, then because my voice was always so calm, coming left, using a pull, rolling out the diamond roll or whatever. If I ever got in that situation, if I deepened my voice and it got real serious, like a little more pull, the guys knew, okay, this is going to be tough. I got to hang on, hold my position, but we're going to go from 2.7 Gs. So there's all kinds of metrics, right? 2.7 Gs at the bottom of the loop was the target and where we tried to be. But now it's going to be 3.5 maybe. So, but that was the safety guy behind us. But in the line abreast loop, which was very difficult, there was no safety other than the boss.
Let's take these two here, and then we'll get you guys up to the receiving line here. Tim, we'll start with you up front here.
What years did you command the Blues?
Back when a lot of you were toddlers. I led them in 91, 92, got called back in 93, and then got called back in 96. 3 times to get it right.
And final question here.
We're totally different services. So the Thunderbirds are Air Force, we're Navy. We did, though, in that one day of the year where we'd go out and do a couple practices, we would take some of them in the back seat, and they would learn from us, and we'd go in the back seat of their airplanes and learn from them. So there was that swapping of ideas and techniques. But no, you couldn't switch your services. No, we didn't want to do that. We were the older service.
I'm sorry. Oh, absolutely. You want to talk about the museum?
This museum?
Well, the museum that you were on the board of.
Oh yeah. I'm on the board of the Evergreen Air and Space Museum out in McMinnville, Oregon. I live in Oregon in Beaverton. What do they have at that museum that's so unique in the world? Spruce Goose, yeah. So I'll be talking with you guys. I just got on the board, and I see where we could do have a lot of different airplanes and maybe swap out and do some stuff. They got a great space exhibit there. That's really cool too.
Yeah, it's a cool place. You got to go out and see. That airplane is massive.
It is.
It's so
They
cool.
call
to see.
that the "Oh my God" plane.
Yes, yeah.
And when I saw it first in Long Beach, and went in to see it, and that's exactly what I said. And the volunteer who was next to me said, "That is what we actually call the plane." Because everyone says the same thing.
I like it because it's made of wood, and it takes you back to the era of planes being made of wood and pilots being made of steel.
Yes.
Well, I cannot say thank you enough for coming out here, spending time with us and our members here, making the pilgrimage out to Oshkosh, not during July's air show.
This is my first time in Oshkosh.
It is, yeah. It's your first trip. It's your first
It's
trip.
great, and this museum is amazing. You're doing a great job, Chris, and all the docents, all the volunteers. Volunteers make museums hum. I mean, you all are the heart and soul of these museums.
Well, thank you. We really deeply appreciate both of you being here. You're taking some wheel chocks home with you,
cool.
custom painted by Dave here. So
Beautiful.
Absolutely have fun getting that through TSA. But but seriously, thank you for being here. We're gonna have Scott.
Yeah, we'll answer questions up in the.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Come up to the front of the museum though. But thank you.